Good afternoon. It is officially noon. They blew the fire whistle for us, so we can start. I'd just like to say Happy New Year in the best way I can possibly say it, with my fingers crossed and my toes crossed, that we will have a Happy New Year. We're here to support each other, and that is one of the priorities of the Indivisible National Program. They're suggesting that we build groups like this, that we continue to meet and we find ways that we have a safe space in which to voice our concerns, and to, once we know what we're up against, that we can develop programs and events and things that will meet those needs. So today we're going to start by talking a little bit about what the Indivisible priorities are nationwide. They're doing the same thing we're doing. They are waiting to see what happens with this new administration, counting down the days. And in the meantime, their priorities are to keep a watchful eye on things and on our elected officials. That's one thing we're going to be talking about today. They also want us to form other connections within the community, to reach out to people we know. So we're going to be talking about some of those things today that we can do. This is one of those things. Don't forget that we have Tuesday steering committee
destruction. We've heard from so many residents in this community and also in Altadena, California. They're the Eaton Fire, Palisades Fire, and Eaton Fire. Those are the two big.
Unexpected visitor here behind me. So anyway, we're going to hang in there and follow what they tell us to do, as they tell us to do it, because they know more than we know. There is an interesting thing coming up, and did we put this on here? This came up right around the time that we were putting this agenda together. That on what day of the week is it? Thursdays? Dan, do you remember the Thursday thing that is it?
Thursday at 3 o'clock.
Okay, those next Thursdays at 3 o'clock coming up, there are Zoom meetings with Ezra and his wife Leah, who are the founders of Indivisible. And the people that watched one last Thursday thought it was amazingly helpful to them and just powerful. So those are going to continue. If you're interested in that, I don't know, I think you may have already posted it. We're going to post the link to that on the Facebook group. So watch for that. Okay. All right, so at least you have access to seeing when it is, because if you're free, I thought it was kind of an odd time you've chosen to do it, 3 o'clock on a Thursday. But on the other hand, that's when it is, and they will be recording those, I think, as well.
Yeah.
So
they did send for.
Okay, great. We're going to start right out here with the holding our elected officials accountable segment of this, and Pam's going to do that.
I'm going to talk about John Fetterman, because in the last couple of weeks, he's been doing things that have really pissed off made angry a bunch of people. I just went through some of the articles that were available on Google, but they were legitimate, like ABC and CBS and Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, and took some notes from that. And I want to read those to you directly so that you'll have some sense of what he's been doing. If you don't know, he's plans to go visit Mar-a-Lago, meet up with Trump. You can have mixed feelings about that. There may be some good come from that. But when you read his attitude about it, it does not sound legit and good to me. As far as I know, that's not happened yet. But has anybody heard that he's actually attended? Okay, he plans to go in any case. He intends to support the nominees that will be up for Senate confirmation in the coming days. He's already verbalized that he's going to support certain ones. And that may be okay, but the ones that I've seen are not okay. And there's nothing you can do but oppose them. And to pretend otherwise is not legit, in my opinion. He's opened a channel of communication. He hopes to get out of this that he can open a channel of communication with Trump and have some impact on his policies. Here's where we insert the eye roll. His impending visit, which has yet to be scheduled, is likely to generate more outrage from the left, but that's just what Fetterman likes, is what this article said. On Thursday, he joked to reporters that the goal of his visit was to demand that he be Pope of Greenland. What may frustrate progressives is that Fetterman appears gleeful about making inroads with the incoming administration. Last month, he posted a photo with Elise Stefanik of New York. By comparison to others, she's more legitimate. She at least has had some experience and background in politics. Giving 2 thumbs up to her serving in the United Nations, and then writing on social media that he plans to vote for her confirmation because he was always a hard yes. I don't know what that means. Despite their bitter rivalry, Fetterman says he has not decided yet whether to back Dr. Oz as the top post in the Trump administration. He's agreed to meet with Kash Patel, Pete Hegseth. When asked if Hegseth is qualified, this is Jonathan Carl interviewing him. Is Pete Hegseth qualified? Well, we're going to learn more. I already know he's not qualified just from what I've seen in his bio. Some of these nominations I'm going to vote for, he said. I'm open to hear from everyone. And I don't know why that's controversial. I'd like to remind everyone on the Democratic side that that's how democracy works. We Democrats need reminded about how democracy works. He says, I hope that Trump has the potential to be a good president.
Potential to be what?
A good president.
What? Why is that the question? Because we've already seen him for
He's
4
demonstrated
years.
for 4 years plus 4 more years that he can't do it. Trump is a singular political talent. This is coming out of Fetterman's mouth. Energy and fearlessness to say all those entertaining things. He thinks because he says what he says that he's got guts. If you're not afraid to say all those things, it's a political talent. Fetterman doesn't think Trump is a fascist. He approved of the way he ran his campaign, unafraid to say whatever he wanted. His voters think he will protect and project their way of life. People in Indiana are buying his message, Fetterman says. So he thinks that he should give Trump a chance. Fascist is not a word that I would use, he says, because you put a lot of Democrats, especially in my state that I know, and I happen to love people that are going to vote for Trump. And they're not fascists. On Truth Social, he recently became a member of Truth Social. He wrote the Trump hush money and the Hunter Biden cases were both bullshit. And pardons are appropriate. So I guess whenever Trump got sentenced the other day, he thought he should have just been dismissed. Weaponizing the judiciary for blatant partisan gain diminishes the collective faith of our institutions and sows further division. So he thinks those cases should have been dismissed. I think Fetterman needs to hear from us. You'll see that on the handout today is a phone number that you can call his office and express your opinion or ask questions. But down the road, I would like to see us get together with some other organizations, our sister Indivisibles, and have a bombarded effort to make an impact on this guy and send him the message that we want to send.
Thanks, Jan. I missed the meeting, the Thursday meeting the other day, but this was this broke. This information, the information about Fetterman came out right in the middle of their meeting that they were having that Thursday at 3 o'clock meeting. And Leah came up with this term Fettermanizing, that she doesn't like to see the Fettermanizing.
Fettermanizing.
Anyway, Dan is going to come up, I think, and talk a little bit. We kind of backtrack in one click on the sentencing. We were all holding our breath for the sentencing. So, there's not an awful lot we can say about it, but I think we need to address it and maybe address your concerns about it.
Comment that there isn't a whole lot to say about it is pretty accurate. There's just a little bit of analysis. a lot of us took heart from the fact that he actually was sentenced. I mean, it wasn't anything of consequence, but at least he was sentenced, which technically makes him a convicted felon. And everybody's like cheering about that. The deeper analysis is that since he's been sentenced, this gives him an avenue to appeal the sentence. And he runs that up through the courts and gets that to SCOTUS. It's theoretically possible that they could toss the sentence and then the whole thing just goes away like it never happened. So that's depressing. So, comments? Yes, ma'am.
My understanding is that the reason they gave Trump that sentence is because the judge had no choice. That was the only thing he could do that would not break the rules. The Supreme Court gave him this get in free card. So that's why he gave him the sentence that he did. He couldn't fine him $25 or make him work in a soup kitchen. The only thing he could do was address that sentence. I don't know if I'm right about that. That's my understanding.
I listened to his comments and that seemed to be what he was saying. Me personally, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, as Rachel is fond of saying. I don't understand why he couldn't give him a fine. More to the point, I don't understand why he couldn't give him a suspended sentence to be imposed at the end of his 4 years in office. So he might have buckled to the threats. Guy was getting bombarded with death threats and political pressure. So that might be where it came from. I don't know.
I was under the understanding it had something to do with making sure he was labeled as a felon.
Okay.
Because like, so that way that he wouldn't take it to the Supreme Court to overturn it if there was no like penalty imposed. So that's something to do with that.
Yeah.
That was my understanding.
Yeah. This might be the hardest way for him to appeal it, but it still leaves, you know, he's very public about the fact that he intends to appeal it. And Lord knows what will happen with that.
So how many financial felonies can you and I commit with no punishment whatsoever?
None that I know of. And my personal feeling is that anybody who's been convicted of white collar crime in the last 20 years should be filing an appeal and citing this case as a basis for that appeal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, he claims that, like, you know, he didn't do anything wrong, but the underlying crux of the case was he used campaign funds for personal purposes. That's a felony. A guy named Edwards was running for president 20 years ago, and he got run out of the campaign for doing the exact same thing. He got caught having an affair, and he used campaign funds to try to cover it up. If he had just simply like written a personal check, this thing probably would have gone away. It's the fact that he was so cheap that he used campaign funds to pay Stormy Daniels off instead of just writing a check out of his own personal funds.
He thinks of it as his own.
Yeah, he doesn't care. Yeah.
Well, he's got good reason to. He's not going to get punished for it.
And it turns out he didn't get punished for it.
I'll be interested to see if Kristen Sinema gets in any trouble, because she's apparently been using her campaign funds to travel and do all kinds of shit.
No, she'll just cite this case. She'll just cite this case.
Yeah, well, she doesn't have presidential immunity either, but yeah, no, actually.
Neither
like
did
I said,
he. He wasn't
anybody
president when it happened.
tied to white collar crime should be filing an appeal. Anybody gets charged in the future, I would hope, would cite this case as grounds for like dismissal. So they have a whole lot cheerful to offer on the subject.
I cannot think of the name of his lawyer. Spent 3 years in jail. 3
Go,
years, yeah, go.
Michael
Just on-
Cohen.
Just on the morning show and on MSNBC. He was just horrified. And the man looked like he was terrified.
He got 3 years in jail
And-
for
and
this
three-
exact case.
Now he's gonna be on Trump's target.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, and
More so than
he has asked for a pardon from President Biden. He
Yeah.
hasn't gotten one yet. But he, you know, he spent 51 days in solitary confinement.
That's weird.
And 3 days of that will drive you bonkers.
Why was he in solitary?
Maybe that's Trump, I don't know.
He refused to cooperate with the lawyers who were insisting that he sign something, as I recall. I don't remember what it was.
A wrap?
I think, unfortunately, I wish we had more.
Yeah.
So if you came in here all perky and happy and joyful, we've probably made you slightly depressed, which is where we're going to then move to the next segment that we're going to have today. And for the next foreseeable future, we're going to be bringing in some professionals who deal with helping people cope with their feelings and having working through things that are bothering them. So our first guest today is Wendy Terwilliger. She's been a practicing psychologist for 37 years. She started her career working as part of a pain management center for 12 years. Thereafter, she split her time between a large psychiatric outpatient practice as well as within a family practice office for the past 20 years. She moved to the Clarion area some 10 years ago and coordinates with several primary care physicians in treating clients who are in their late teens through adulthood. So we're going to welcome Wendy. If you look farther down into the agenda, the next 2 months we have people scheduled who are also professionals in their field. So starting off, Wendy, and she's going to try to come to all of these if she can.
I most certainly will try.
Wait, no, go get one.
I'll just jump in there.
Just try to be professional.
I got one. I figured you.
Okay, I'm going to pass this white pad around for Wendy. If you want to write down any suggestions,
Yeah.
tell what you want.
And things maybe that you would like us to address, because, you know, Kathy and I have been in touch with a couple folks already. We have a provider coming in to do some relaxation sessions. My colleague who recently left and started a practice on his own, Adam Clark, will be joining us. Is that February, Kathy?
It's February,
Yep.
yes.
Right. And yeah, after just that big downer, I will tell you the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So, you know, I hate to be downtrodden like that, but it is so. At any rate, I'd like to thank the founding members. You guys put so much time into this, and the steering committee and everybody who is involved in making this happen. I know it's a lot of effort to come and do that. What I'd like to start with first, and again, I'm going to stay away from talking politics. That's what I need to do in my practice. I have to be nonpartisan, except for certain clients. So it can be very difficult, and I'm very good at changing the subject. At any rate, I think, having worked in psychology and focusing on health, I think we all need to look at our health, both our physical health and our emotional health, because, you know, there seems so much with this whole business, all these, you know, the political, and every day is another depressing pill to take. We have to think, where does that get us? And we need to be able to put that someplace, and we need to be able to focus on other positive aspects of our lives and think about what we can do instead. One of the things that I recommend is to pick a worry time. Pick a worry time. It can be 15 minutes. I'd like it not to be more than 15 minutes a day. And if it's 6 o'clock, if your worry time is at 6 p.m., you're going to worry from 6 to 6:15. And if you think you're going to forget what you're going to worry about, I suggest making a list during the day and say, that is reserved, or your 15 minutes might be after watching the news. It's going to be different for everybody, but that's a way to sort of compartmentalize the stuff so it's not on your mind 24/7, because that can really bring people down. And I stress the health thing so much, in part because I've worked with people with a lot of chronic conditions, including, just very painful conditions where people have no hope. Chronic disease and how that affects us emotionally. So I can't stress enough to take care of yourself physically. If you haven't seen your doctor, if you're having emotional issues, and I talked to, I think I'm gonna try to get a list of providers in the area, and that way everybody will at least have some names and numbers that they can contact if necessary. Get busy with distractions. Those are #1 tools, positive distractions. You can choose what you think about. I will tell you that if you think about negative, your world will be negative. So let's keep that. And I have a very negative husband, and I'm just like, okay, that was not, what's the other side of that? Because the laws of nature are wherever there's a positive, there's a negative. We all know, those of us in my age bracket, we've been through this, and I think it's very stunning to us because we've experienced such different things in our lifetime. And this has really hit a lot of us, very hard. But are we going to allow it to be the main focus in our life? Because we allow that. We can control that. We can control how much we think about it. It is tough. But already, I know with the group that there have been different groups organized, craft groups, there are meetings, a host of things that I believe are on the website, Kathy, aren't they? Just some of the different groups. Altruism is probably the best medicine. If you don't have, I think a lot of us have a lot to do, but if you have some free time, reach out and help somebody less fortunate. It can be anything. It can be helping family members, but it helps you to feel better about yourself. And that's what we all need to do more, is to seek that. If you're watching media, whatever you're watching, turn on positive things, turn on funny shows, turn on happy movies. Don't get mired in negativity, because that can really be a downer for a lot of us. Getting back to the worry stuff, 99% of the things that we worry about never happen. The 1% that is going to happen whether or not we worry about it. So think of that. So essentially what you're doing is, you're giving, you're donating your health. For what cause? It's not changing things. So let's focus on what we have control of. There's so many things in our lives that, we don't have control of, and we have to realize that we don't have control of certain things. And we need to say, if I can think of one more construct that I can do to help alleviate this issue, I'm going to do it. But go through what you've already done, and then put it to bed. If you can't think of anything else to do. But again, I think a lot of this is, we all feel a loss of control about our futures and what's going to happen. And that's valid. I think, like I said the last time I was here, a lot of the people who have voted for the new administration coming in it's going to hit them the worst. It really is. When you look at everything that they are going to lose. And so again, it's very gentle persuasion with folks. We can't change people's mind. We can change our behavior. But at any rate, I know that, and didn't you say, is Joe going to do a meditation?
Joseph, yes.
Yes, that's what I thought. But, I talked to Kathy about maybe soliciting ideas from you folks about what you think would help you. we have a gal we're gonna talk to about maybe doing some yoga and just learning there's so many different relaxation techniques. Look on YouTube. There are a million of them. I have several of them, which I would be more than willing to share. I've done this for a long time, and believe me, that works because you get to a place within yourself where you're just focused on positive. And I'll tell you, if you practice that on a regular basis, it can really improve the way you think about things, think about yourself, think about the world. Any input, any questions from anybody, any ideas about what you'd like to see us do? Because we have a lot of providers in the area, more so than I would have thought. Anybody? Yes, Pam.
I think one thing that I find useful is because I'm interested in music, whenever I'm able to find an outlet where I can engage in that, that's very helpful. And poetry reading.
Absolutely.
Maybe it's writing. They had a workshop at Sparrow Books the other night where they're encouraging people to write. Maybe you've never written before.
Right.
But if you try those things out, anything that you can absorb yourself in. And like you said, we're planning to do some things like the Stitch and Bitch, where we're going to do crafts together. They may or may not talk about what's going on in the news, but at least you're finding camaraderie with the people who think like you do.
And I think, again, Pam, it is about camaraderie, that we all know there's a reason why we're all here, okay? And that people have chosen to come. We need each other for the support. And again, it's very difficult to be surrounded by negativity, particularly if you're in a family and everybody thinks differently than you do. That can be stifling. And I hear a lot about those things, about going to family dinners. I hope everybody did okay over the holiday. But again, those are things that we end up having to deal with. I mean, fortunately for me, my family all sort of feels the same way, but in a lot of cases, that's not the truth. And that really has to be painful for a lot of people. Very painful, especially when we know what might happen with them, just not really being in touch with, the here and now. But again, let's think about ourselves. Let's think about our health. And, again, reaching out, altruism, exercise is huge. It's absolutely huge. I tell my patients, I usually walk an hour every single morning before I go into work because I sit on my can the entire day. And what I do can sometimes be very, very stressful. I don't know. I think as I get older, you kind of get to the point where you've heard a lot. Yes.
I'm just curious if you have a therapist.
I'm sorry?
Did you have a
Hey,
therapist?
listen, I call my friends who are therapists until I hear what I want to hear.
Oh.
But no, I do.
Is that how it's done?
That's how it's done, yeah.
I'm sure that's not the therapist.
No, but that's excellent. And, having a therapist, I love what I do because I love people.
Mhm.
And for a lot of people, people are very fearful of it. I've had people say, oh, you know my thoughts. And I'm like, I know what the heck about you tell me. I don't know I can't read anything, and essentially, if you think about it, psychology is not rocket science. It's really more about education. It's educating people on how to take better care of themselves. It's educating people on what choices they may have. Well, not pushing them in any certain way, showing them what's around there, because it's amazing, even when we have groups of people, how many different suggestions come in, and things that I do not think of might be imminent on somebody else's mind. It's basically how we can help each other. But I think too, I will try to get a list together of practitioners in the area, and that way we'll have a list. And try to print it out. Also, if you have friends who are not able to make these meetings, and maybe share some of this knowledge with them. If you know somebody who's really been down and out, and encourage them, to do the things that they need to take care of themselves. If we don't take care of ourselves, we're not good for anybody else. Right now with this political situation, it's hurry up and wait. With a lot of things, our next elections are not like, when are we 2 years that we can start looking at House and Senate? Yeah. So, we're kind of stuck. I don't feel quite as disillusioned as I did the first time. And I really had hoped that both of the women who ran against him would win. But that did not happen. So my first thing when I get out of bed, because I never know the results, I look at my cell phone. Okay, I got to get ready and think about how I'm going to deal with people today. Because how are people going to be feeling? And again, that's what we have to do. This is what we're left with. So how much time are we going to spend ruminating about it? Makes a lot of difference in terms of how we're going to feel about it. Get busy doing anything else. Read a funny book. Watch a funny movie. It really
hard to
does.
find funny and uplifting things on TV.
It is very
Whether it's
hard.
movies or shows.
Food shows.
Well, that's all I
Food
do watch.
shows.
That's all I watch.
Little House on the Prairie. Lessons.
Yeah.
But sometimes that can be very, very helpful. Anything that's a distraction that is not talking about what we're all faced with coming up in our nation. Anything that is a distraction, whatever it is you like. I read murder mysteries at night before I go to sleep. For the simple reason, it takes me out of my reality. Okay, and I don't worry about it. I go to sleep not thinking about, what I didn't do right that day, or thinking about the stress that I have tomorrow. So anything that is a diversion can be very, very helpful. Yes, ma'am.
My daughters and I find that we call it comfort TV or comfort movies.
Mhm.
And I even read an article that sort of parallels that if you watch movies that you enjoy again and just turn to them, you already know what's coming. So it might seem like, oh, that's stupid, I've already seen that, but it's like comfort food.
It is.
For us, it's Gilmore Girls or like Jane Austen movies or something that we know what to expect.
Right.
And it isn't controversial or terrible or, so.
Right.
I put that on and just numb out when I have to. They do the same thing.
Or people watch Lifetime movies. I mean,
Yeah.
to each their own. We're all different. And there's no right or no wrong. It's to each to their own. Anything else? Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
If you know anybody that would do like a weekly yoga, I don't mind doing it at home. My fear is that I'm gonna hurt my back or something. So
I get
if I
it.
could just once a week do a practice and have somebody that really knows what they're doing
Yeah.
to oversee and correct any bad postures or whatever, I would love that. I mean, I've been.
Okay.
looking for
I mean,
regular-
and we do have a gal here in town who's not only a therapist, but she is a yoga instructor.
You're talking
And
about Desiree?
no, we've talked about, getting her on board, and I'll reach out to her.
Okay.
And it might be something too, that if we could do something on a regular basis and, just have donations,
Oh, yeah.
that would work really well too.
I would love to do that. I would love to do it.
That's good.
I would too. Yeah.
That's awesome. Anything else? You've got yoga, any other suggestions?
The Stitch and Bitch, where have we set that up?
We'll get there.
We're gonna talk about that in a
Sorry.
minute. Jan, yeah, she at the last minute couldn't be here. They were getting company from out of town, but we'll talk about it. But,
No, Jen Martin.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
You're welcome. And you had a question?
No, it was just, one of the things I do at home
Yeah.
is listen to music.
Music is
Music
great.
just uplifts me.
It transports you.
Yes. And
It
you're just
does.
so into that music that nothing else matters at that moment.
Yeah, and like even like Pam who plays, but music
Oh.
really is really great medicine for us.
Gardening.
Yeah, gardening, anything that you can do that takes your mind away from that is really good.
You kind of like go back to the things you did when you were depressed during COVID, you know, anything that you could do
Yeah.
to distract yourself from what was going on.
Cook,
We got real creative for a while.
yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
You know, we were gonna take a break here and get some soup, but I'm thinking that we're rolling really well here and that we should just roll through the meeting and then get soup and chat and that. So I think that the next thing we're gonna talk about, if you look on your agenda for upcoming events and dates, we have several things coming up. Pat, did you want to talk about the car?
All I can really say is that there will be a car caravan on January 18th. We'll see where it goes based on the weather. Meet at the mall you have the 18th at 11, that works.
Yep.
I don't really have anything else to say about it.
Yeah, over near the
Look for a white Ford Explorer.
the
That's me.
Meadows. Yes.
To that end,
Yes.
I believe there are still slots left. If anybody wants to actually go to DC, there are still slots left on the bus that's leaving from Warren on Saturday morning.
Awesome.
Ridiculously early, but it's a 1 day down and back, but if, yeah, I think it's
Awesome.
$50
It
a
is,
slot.
$50 to get on the bus. Yep.
$50 to get on the bus.
That's a heck of a good price to do that trip.
Agreed.
It is a wonderful experience, but recently I've seen things saying, you know, just be aware of what you are doing. Because this isn't 8 years ago when we first started this. There were a lot of people there with their kids. Some of us were on that.
Are
Yeah,
there
DC.
magnetic signs available for the caravan? We're asked from Amy.
Yeah, well, we're having some made, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, back to let's go back to the bus to DC. They're saying they would not recommend you take children. You know, this could turn ugly. I fear more this time than I did 8 years ago when we went. We kind of blissfully went down and nothing out of the ordinary happened. And even that, I was glad I didn't have any kids with me because there's so many people and people crushing. Yeah, Dan?
The issue, the issue is that Trump is staging a rally in DC the day before. So all of his followers, if you will, are going to be pouring into town and are going to be around and available while this event is going on. That's what the concern is.
Is it the day before or the day after, in between that event and the inauguration? I thought it was the 19th. But it's in the same, it's right there. And he did it on purpose because of this People's March. It's not being called the Women's March, this time it's being called the People's March. But if you go, some of the things they told us before is take ID, have ID on you at all times.
January 19th for Trump's.
Huh?
January 19th for Trump's.
19th is Trump's, okay, and ours is the 18th. So anyway, I'm glad to hear that they, you know, hopefully they'll fill that bus up in Warren. It's too bad they wouldn't make a stop maybe on the way.
Agreed. I thought you all said it was going to New York City.
There are like the last time, there are many all over the place.
But Warren one's going.
We're
The Warren
offering,
one's
if you
going to
don't
DC.
want to go out of town this time, we're offering this car caravan as something you can do. We are ordering some magnetic signs. We'll line up so that we stay behind the person. We try to stay together. We've talked about Clarion to Brookville to New Bethlehem and back around. But like Pat said, we can't definitely carve that in stone until we see what the roads are going to be like. So please join us if you want to. We have markers that are safe, like they use for pep rallies and or school events. You know, you write on your car and it washes right off. So we've got some of those left from the last time we did one of these.
And then when you're done with
actually
that, you
fun.
can wash the salt off your car, which you should always be doing.
Right. So that's what's coming up on the 18th. We did talk about messaging and we
Parade. If you're gonna be putting the chalk on your car, you should make sure that you have your car rinsed first. So you
Okay.
extract the paint.
Oh, okay. All right, bring a clean car if possible. The messaging we chose is one of Indivisible National's primary things is just resist Project 2025. If you still haven't gone down through and read what is on Project 2025, you need to take time and do that, because there are a lot of summaries of it, but it's just horrific. It's hard to believe that anybody would think it's a good idea. Any of it. So anyway, we're having those made, resist Project 2025, hoping that people see that and go, what the hell is that? You know, and go and Google it and find out about it. So then we'll be writing other messages like, you like your Social Security? You know, just whatever you can think of, be thinking in advance what you think would be a good thing to have on your car. And, you know, the last time we did it with maybe 6 cars, and it was amazing how much attention. We honk our horns when we go through parking lots and things like that. And people will wave at us, and it's kind of not, it was kind of fun. You know, I think we'll do a press release too, so that will help. We'll get some pictures and do a press release. Book discussion. Where's Jen?
I'm here.
There she is.
All right, so
That's the 22nd.
The only person who gets to avoid the camera is me because I'm behind it.
well, I don't really have that much to say. I should have been done by now. So the 22nd is our first book discussion with Amanda Jones. She's that librarian. Her book's been on the New York Times bestseller list for nonfiction most of 2024. I'm still amazed that she was like, sure, I'll do that with you. The book is on Libby. I think you can get it from your library or you can buy it from your local bookseller. The link is right there. I didn't put the time. It will be 7:30 p.m. On the 22nd. Sorry about that.
That's what it looks like.
Yep, that's the book.
January 22nd, right?
Yep.
And this is.
And it's on Facebook. There's an event, so the link is there as well.
That's an amazing opportunity for
Yeah,
us in
she's
Little
in the
Clarion
media.
to be able to actually have a discussion of a book run by the author themselves. So it's a great opportunity. If you know people, even if you're in another book club and they don't like doing things like this, this is bringing the community together. So take this information to if you belong to some other book club, give it out to people and have them sign up for this.
Of note, Zoom only for that one, not here.
Right. The Stitch and Bitch that we talked about, or in here for being polite, craft and chat. We put a thing in the newsletter. I do not know if she ever got any takers yet, but it was pretty far away. But did you get the pictures? Okay, right here. She's working on these bracelets. And she has all kinds of beads. That's one of her first craft projects that she'd like to do with folks. She hasn't said yet where she wants to hold it, but I'll put a paper out if you're interested, if you give us your phone number and or your email and your name, sign up and we'll have Jan contact you. She really wanted to be here today, but it's her husband's birthday and family decided to come in and surprise him. So.
And she did some of this during the summer with a group of people, and it was very successful. So people love doing this. So.
It will be time for petitioning for if you want to run for office. If there's any little local office, school board, anything like that, those petition signing days are from the February 18th to March 11th. There are people on your Democratic committee. There are some of them here today that can probably help talk you through the process of how to do that. But that's something that's going to come up pretty darn fast. And we need all the brave people that we can find that would step out of their comfort zone and try to take some of these local offices. Then we already gave you the dates for the Thursday event, the Indivisible National Online events on Thursdays. So without further ado, one of the things that National put out there is Happy New Year. The last thing that they put in their list of things that they seriously wanted us to consider doing is that their very strong reminder of have fun. And it's funny because Wendy mentioned that today, try to find ways to have fun. So we're gonna have some fun. Everybody kind of reverse your chairs, turn them around. We have an official setting here. We have our Borough Council, which has now become the Supreme Court. We have the names there. If you are willing to serve for your lifetime commitment, for about 10 minutes. We're gonna need to have people take these seats. So it's very short readers theater. It's nothing big deal, but you'll enjoy it. We'll all enjoy it. So please, somebody go take a chair.
So we will be told what to say. We don't have.
Yes, no, there's a script.
Oh,
There'll be a script.
it's not improv. I wanted to say that. Are we supposed to get in these chairs?
You're supposed to get in these chairs. Pick the justice you want to represent.
Barrett.
Who had the can of soda that we're gonna pretend is a Bud Light? Okay.
It's not
that goes
done
in
yet.
board docs.
It's chugging it.
Yeah. Maybe you should just be shy.
I'll try.
There you
Two.
You're over there next to the Chief Justice if you're gonna be Kavanaugh, and that's where the.
I'm not gonna be Kavanaugh.
No, I'm sort of.
Let me slide in.
Beer.
You can.
Well, I don't know.
Trick, girl.
No
No
one's
one's
sitting
sitting there, so it's me. And I'm not even a beer drinker. You should be there.
Do you have your script?
Which seat is
You
it?
got Chief Justice here, I think.
Oh, yeah. I want to be
Kavanaugh's in.
Kavanaugh.
I don't want to be. Nobody wants to be Roberts. We gotta get somebody up there for Roberts.
Somebody's gotta be
We
Roberts.
already have.
Kaylee, get up here.
There.
Yeah, there
Kaylee,
you go.
make a great Chief Justice.
I sure would.
She's running.
I know, I can't even look over. Who am I?
On there.
Gorsuch.
You're
Gorsuch.
Amy-
Thank you.
You know you're Amy.
You're Sotomayor.
Thank
you. You're welcome.
I'm gonna put on my grumpy old white guy face.
Well, so.
Come over and sit down.
That will fit. Yeah, that blank white guy face.
All right, I'm gonna narrate.
There's nothing.
Am I Jenny Thomas or Clarence
Oh,
Thomas?
wait, where's Jenny Thomas?
Yeah, we need.
We need
Who's
someone
Jenny?
to,
All right.
Oh,
that'd be fun.
Yes.
oh, okay. And we need a
Okay.
narrator. You're doing
I'll narrate. All right, you ready?
You're ready.
All right, the Supreme Court's conference room, usually a bastion of quiet deliberation, was anything but serene on this cold January morning. Chief Justice John Roberts sat at the head of a long table, a man clearly burdened by the knowledge that his colleagues were about to turn a historic decision into something resembling a drunken town hall meeting. The matter at hand, Donald J. Trump's desperate attempt to stop his sentencing in the New York hush money case. Justice Brett Kavanaugh leaned back in his chair, clutching a Bud Light like a security blanket. He took the can back, took a long gulp, and wiped his mouth with his sleeve.
Oh, forgot to do that. Okay.
Now you read.
Oh, I have to talk. Do we really have to do this today?
He slurred, his eyes half lidded.
The guy's not going to jail. What's the big deal?
Justice Elena Kagan rolled her eyes so hard, it was a wonder they didn't pop out of her head.
The big deal, Brett,
She
is
snapped.
that we're about to let a convicted felon waltz back into the Oval Office. I'd say that's worth our time.
Yeah, well,
Brett muttered, cracking open another beer.
he's already won. What's one more headline? Just let it go.
Justice Sonia Sotomayor, sitting upright and brimming with barely contained rage, jabbed a finger in Kavanaugh's direction.
We're done here. Let it go. Are you kidding me? We're supposed to be the guardians of justice and you want to shrug this off like a bad hangover?
Justice Clarence Thomas cleared his throat, arms crossed as he leaned back in his chair.
It's not about the headlines, Sonia. It's about the Constitution. Trump's our guy. He gave us 3 seats on this bench. Are we supposed to turn our back on him now?
Oh, give me a break, Clarence. This isn't some loyalty program. This is the Supreme Court. Maybe try acting like it.
Clarence ignored her and glared at Roberts, who was massaging his temples like a man contemplating early retirement. Justice Amy Coney Barrett, sitting quietly near the end of the table, finally spoke up.
Can I just ask, why did he need to falsify business records to pay her? He's a billionaire, right? Couldn't he just, I don't know, pay her outright?
The room fell silent for a moment before Kagan burst out laughing.
Amy, sweetie, billionaires don't use cash. That's how you end up in tabloids, not on Forbes.
Before anyone could respond, the door creaked open and in strolled Ginny Thomas, carrying a stack of papers and a thermos that reeked suspiciously of bourbon.
Don't mind me.
She chirped, dumping her papers onto the table.
Just thought I'd drop off some reading material for you all to consider before you make a terrible mistake.
Elena groaned audibly.
Oh, fantastic. The unofficial 11th justice has arrived.
Ginny ignored her and patted Clarence on the shoulder.
Don't let them push you around, honey. This is about saving the country, not some silly legal technicality.
Thanks, dear.
Can someone please get her out of here? Ginny, we're in the middle of deliberations. This is not the time.
Oh, fine. Just remember, history will judge you all.
With that, she strutted out, leaving the room in stunned silence. Justice Samuel Alito finally broke the tension.
Look, John, let's stop pretending this is about the law. We all know Trump's going to be president again in 10 days. Does it really matter if he's sentenced now or later? The guy's practically untouchable.
Sam, are you defending Trump or auditioning to be his next attorney general?
Let's just vote and get this over with. Who's in favor of granting the appeal?
Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, and predictably Kavanaugh raised their hands. Brett Spearcan wobbling precariously on the grass.
Oh, am I supposed? I lost. Where am I?
Too much here.
Too much here, yeah. Knock it off, Brent.
Oh, there we are. Oh, great. Team Trump.
Brett slurred, grinning like a frat boy at a tailgate.
Any against?
Kagan, Sotomayor, and
Ketanji.
Sorry, I had a moment. Brown, Jackson immediately raised their hands. After a moment's hesitation, Barrett joined them. All eyes turned to Roberts. The Chief Justice closed his eyes, exhaled deeply, and shook his head.
The appeal is denied. Let New York handle it. Trump will survive. He always does.
You're turning your back on everything we've worked for?
Nice to see you still have some integrity left, John.
Robert stood and gathered his papers.
Meeting adjourned. Someone write the order. And for God's sake, let's keep this entire debacle off the record.
As the justices filed out, Brett stayed behind, finishing his beer and cracking open another. He kicked his feet up on the table and muttered to himself.
What am I supposed to do?
They don't make
I'm muttering to myself. They don't make law like they used to.
The decision was made, but the tension lingered, an institution creaking under the weight of its own contradictions. Outside, the world spun on, oblivious to just how precariously justice had hung in the balance.
Did you write this?
No.
Oh,
It
okay.
just appeared like it was dropped.
We need to do this all the time. This was fun. And I like the beer part.
I have to run to the bathroom now because I chugged that whole thing. So you would have
Three kinds of soup over there. I'll tell you what ones I know. I know there's chili, right? Yep. And there's the round small crock pot is like a Thai chicken soup. And there's a little bottle if you want more heat in it. You can dribble some more hot sauce in it. And what was the one that you made?
It's kale sausage soup.
Ooh. Okay. Right. And there's bread and
Pepperoni bread.
all kinds of interesting.
Oh, who are you? Oh. Oh, well.
That's okay. Did you make pepperoni?
And well, I got a little bit of crud from my kids, but not. Everything else.
Huh?
No, what? No. It was like a whole weekend thing.
You know,
the next blow one.
you really should have had that.
Next day.
I like more what was in that.
Just stayed home.
Yeah.
I got through stuff so
It
much,
almost got
but
worse, huh?
I was just, well.
Maybe
it's
she's
not like I
exhausted.
really didn't-
Yeah.
Somebody else told me that.
It's just.
I hope it's
not too hot now.
Is there anything else left, or are we done with?
We're done.
Done with Zoom?
The meeting is
Wonderful.
adjourned. Meeting adjourned. You know, the idea is.
We should have gotten like a little gavel.
I thought of that, yeah.
I use my fist.
I remember to do that.
Smile.
See, I told you.
Have a good night, everybody.
Yeah. Right?